So he says that sada dambam hitva. So the obstacle to developing this attachment to the tadiya of Krishna and eventually Krishna himself is the material identification, which he calls as damba. And how this damba is removed gradually is what we are going to discuss from verse number 4, 5, 6 and 7, these 4 verses. So this was in essence the introduction that we saw in the first verse of Manasiksha. Then in the second verse, he says that how one has to, anyone who wants to progress on the path of bhakti will have to create a change of paradigm in his thinking, feeling, willing and acting, right? So what is that change of paradigm? So if you are moving from a dharmic platform to the platform of bhakti, then you will have to give up the notion of dharmasya sankalpo adharmasya varjanam. One should give up that platform and come to the platform of anukulyasya sankalpo pratikulyasya varjanam. Or if you are if you have been a materialist and from being a materialist you are progressing to the path of bhakti, then you give up the platform of raga sankalpo dvesha varjanam, accepting whatever you like and rejecting whatever you dislike. Give up that platform and accept the platform of anukulyasya sankalpo pratikulyasya varjanam. So in that way he says that make this change of paradigm. Nadharmam nadharmam shrutigana niruktam kilakuru vraje radha krishna prachura paricharyam ihatanu. That's the first 2 lines he says. Then what is the role of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Shri Guru in establishing that relationship with Krishna? He says, Sachi Sunu Nandishwarapati Sutatve Guruvaram Mukunda Preshtatve Smara Nama Tadatvam Shrunumana. He says that if you want to establish that relationship with Krishna, you should definitely worship Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, because Radha Krishna nahi anya. Because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Radha Krishna nahi anya. Because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is non-different from Radha and Krishna. Radha Bhavad Dyuti Sulalitam Suvalitam Naumi Krishna Swarupam. So he has come with the mood and bodily complexion of Radharani, but it is Krishna himself. So especially for Gaudiya Vaishnavas, the means of establishing a relationship with Krishna is by establishing a relationship with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So, and then what is the role of Guru? Guruvaram Param Mukunda Preshtatve Smaramana. Understand the Guru to be the most intimate associate of Radha and Krishna in Vrindavan. Nikunja Yono Ratikeli Siddhya Yayalibir Yuktirapekshaniya Tatrati Dakshad Ativallabhasya Vande Guru Shri Charanaravindam. So one accepts the Guru to be the most intimate associate of Radha and Krishna, assisting in all the intimate leelas of Radha and Krishna and Vrindavan. So in that mood one sees the Guru, therefore he sees his relationship with Guru as being absolutely very favorable for establishing a relationship with Krishna. So this was the second verse, which spoke about the change of paradigm and also the role of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Shri Guru in establishing our relationship with Radha and Krishna in Vrindavan. And in the third verse, he spoke about this question of, is Vraja Bhakti possible through Diksha and Siksha from other paramparas? So he says, Yadi Cher Avasam Vrajabhuvi Saragam Pratijano Yuvadvandvam Tachet Paricharitum Arad Abhilashe Swarupam Shri Rupam Saganamiha Tasyagrajamapi Sputam Premna Nityam Smaranama Tadatvam Shrunumana. So he says that, oh my dear mind, if you want to stay in Vrindavan with great attachment and love, life after life, Pratijanur, Vrader Radha Krishna Prachura Parichar, sorry, Yuvadvandvam Tachet Paricharitum Arad Abhilashe. And if you, while staying in Vrindavan, if you want to worship Radha and Krishna while staying very close to them, serve them, then it is only possible by Swarupam Shri Rupam Saganamiha Tasyagrajamapi. It is only possible by accepting the teachings of Swarup Damodar Goswami, Srila Rupa Goswami, Sanatan Goswami, and all their associates. So that is the only way of establishing that relationship with Krishna. Basically, the point is only through the writings of our acharyas, starting with Swarup Damodar Goswami, Srila Rupa Goswami, Sanatan Goswami, only through their writings is it possible to establish love for Radha and Krishna in Vrindavan, like that. So this is what we saw in the first 3 verses, which we elaborately discussed. And then we started the 4th verse, in which he spoke about 3 obstacles which are very gross, which one has to try to overcome. Okay, so we will chant this verse. Asadvarta veshya visrijamati sarvasvaharani kata mukti vyagrya na shrunu kila sarvatmagilani api tyaktva lakshmi patiratimito vyomanayani vraje radha krishna swarati mani dautvam bhajamana. So he says, Asad Varta Veshya Visrijamati Sarvasva Harani. So he says, my dear mind, please give up this, abandon this prostitute of mundane talks. And what does that do? It plunders all intelligence. Mati Sarvasva Harani. And Kata Mukti Vyagrya Nashunu Kila Sarvatma Gilani. And do not listen at all to the stories of the tigress named Mukti, Mukti Kata. Sarvatma Gilani, which devours all the souls. Api Tyaktva Lakshmi Pati Ratim Ito Vyomanayani. He says that you should also give up your attachment to Api Tyaktva Lakshmi Pati Ratim. Your attachment to serving Lakshmi Pati, Lord Narayan. Why? Because if you are attached to worshipping Lakshmi Pati, then you will be kidnapped to Vaikunta. If your goal is to go to Goloka Vrindavan, you should develop attachment to serving Radha and Krishna in Vrindavan. So what should one do? He says, Vraje Radha Krishna Tvam Bhajamana. Rather, you should worship Radha and Krishna in Vrindavan. Why? He says, Swarati Mani Dau. Because if you worship them, they will give you the jewel of their own love. So they will give you Vraja Prem, they will give you Rati for Radha and Krishna, Swarati Mani, which is a very valuable jewel. So, 3 gross obstacles he talks about: Asadvarta, Mukti Kata, and Lakshmi Pati Ratim. These are the 3 gross things. In this, we started discussing about the first point, which is Asadvarta last time. We started discussing from Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur's Bhajana Darpan commentary, where he says, just as a prostitute takes away wealth and everything else from an immoral person, material gossip plunders one's intelligence. Right? So he says the only wealth of a living being is discriminating intelligence that has spiritual attainment as the goal of life. Which means the only wealth of a living being is pure devotional faith. If one has pure devotional faith, Krishna Bhakti Rasa Bhavita Mati Kriyatam Yadi Kutopi Labhyate Tatra Laulyam Api Mulyam Ekalam Janma Koti Sukruterna Labhyate. It is mentioned that Krishna Bhakti Rasa Bhavita Mati. One's Mati or intelligence, which is soaked or which is hankering after attainment of Krishna Bhakti Rasa. He says, Kriyatam Yadi Kutopi Labhyate. one should purchase it by hook or crook. Whatever you can do, try to purchase it. So what is the currency to purchase it? He says, Tatra laulyam api mulyam ekalam. Greed to attain it is actually the currency to purchase it. Tatra laulyam api mulyam ekalam janma koti sukritairna labhyate. It is not possible to attain that kind of laulyam by millions and millions of lifetimes of accumulation of material piety. It is a totally different currency altogether. Like that, he says. Right? So, he says, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur mentioned last time that even lessons in Shastra which promote greed for more wealth, so yadate moha kalilam buddhir vyatitarishyati tada gantas nirvedam shrotavyascha shrutasya cha. So Krishna tells in the Bhagavad Gita that even the Vedic scriptures can bewilder one by suggesting lower goals like swarga and all those things. And when our intelligence gets caught up in this forest of material enjoyment, which is recommended by the Vedic scriptures, then we cannot really understand the real greatness of liberation or Krishna Prem, like that. But when our mind escapes, yadate moha kalilam buddhir vyatitarishyati, when our intelligence actually escapes this this enjoyment which is recommended in the Vedas, then tada gantasi nirvedam shrotavyascha shrutasya cha. Then we will develop detachment towards things of this world. So therefore, he says, he mentions that he gives a very generic understanding of the word asadvarta. So what is asadvarta? He says any process that increases one's association with and attachment for temporary useless objects is called as asadvarta. So any process, any activity which increases our attraction, association with and attraction to temporary useless objects is called as asadvarta, right? So it is not just the prajalpa. So asadvarta. So varta can mean words, and varta can also means activity. So in a book called Bhajana Rahasya, like we saw last time, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur says that Atyahara prayasascha prajalpo niyamagraha janasangascha laulyamcha shadbir bhaktir vinashyati. So these 6 things he says, Atyahara prayasa prajalpa niyamagraha janasangascha laulyam. So all these 6 items actually enhances asat trishna. Asat trishna means attachment or great thirst for enjoying the temporary things of this material world. So, of which prajalpa is one of them. So therefore, ideally, when we are talking about asadvarta, we should discuss about atyahara, prayasa, prajalpa, niyamagraha, janasanga and laulyam, because all 6 of them actually will fall within the category of asadvarta. But we will discuss one aspect of it, which is prajalpa, because Vishwanath Chakravarti in his Bhajan Darpan commentary seems to indicate more asadvarta to mean prajalpa, even though the other 5 aspects also increases one's thirst for material sense gratification, right? And regarding Krishna conscious intelligence, he quotes Ramananda Rai and he quotes this verse, Krishna bhakti rasa bhavita matihi, right? Kriyatam yadi kutopi labhyate tatra laulyam api mulyam ekalam janma koti sukrutairna labhyate. If it is possible to obtain the intelligence absorbed in the rasa of pure devotional service to Krishna, then one must acquire it without delay. Intense greed for that rasa is the only price. So the means to attain the product that we want is Krishna consciousness, absorption in Krishna Bhakti Rasa, and um, the means of getting that is greed, and the means of development of that greed is through association, right? Like that we saw last time. And then at this point we went to discuss from Bhaktyaloka, right? I will share that screen. So from Bhaktyaloka we discussed about Prajalpa. So we discussed actually that generally Prajalpa does not have a negative connotation. Uh, Prajalpa means to talking with one another, but because in today's day and age most people are godless, therefore whatever they talk generally is not connected to Krishna. So therefore it is called as unfavorable Prajalpa, which is not favorable for one's progress. But he says that Rupa Goswami and the other great acharyas, um, they have always engaged in favorable Prajalpa, which is discussing Krishna Katha, writing books, right? And discussing favorable topics for one's own progress in Krishna consciousness. So therefore he says that one should engage in this kind of Prajalpa. All the other kinds of Prajalpa which is unfavorable for developing that Krishna Bhakti Rasa Bhavita Mati should be given up. Okay. And he says that one should not um, hear the opinions of some puffed up devotees who think that uh, the advanced devotee does not talk at all. He gives up all kinds of speaking. Okay, that is, and he practices Mauna Brata. So we saw in this context the four Kumaras instruction to um, Prithu Maharaj. They say Vivikta Rucha Paritosha Atmani Vina Harer Guna Piyusha Panat. He says that how, as long as one does not develop a taste for chanting Krishna Katha, it is better one stays alone. Huh? So one devotee asked this question, that if we stay alone, then how will we develop taste for chanting Krishna's Krishna Katha or Krishna Nam, like that? That's a very valid point. So the point is not to actually stay alone. The point is actually to take the association of devotees. That is the point. That is the focus there. Take the association of devotees and discuss Krishna Katha. Rather than, so this certainly is not recommending stay alone. So of course, if one stays alone, uh, then one will definitely not develop the taste for chanting Krishna Katha. So that is right. So so therefore he says that one should follow in the footsteps of the great Mahajans, Mahajano Yena Gatasapanta, where all our great Mahajans like Shukadeva Goswami, Prahlad Maharaj, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his associates, all of them recommended and engaged in this kind of Prajalpa, where they came together and discussed Krishna Katha, right? So then we saw 8 different types of Prajalpa: useless talks, arguments, gossips, debates, fault finding in others, speaking falsehoods, blaspheming devotees, and worldly talk. So these are the 8 different kinds of Prajalpa or idle talking. So here we started discussing about useless talk last time. So Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, useless talk is extremely detrimental. So useless talk means just you know, which is not directly Krishna conscious, and also which is not useful for our personal development also. It's like, oh, you know what, uh, Prime Minister Narendra Modi is really doing a very good job. What do you think? Like that. So, I mean, it is not in one sense like either directly connected to our sadhana also, and at the same time, it is not direct Krishna Katha also. So these kind of topics are in one sense like useless talk, right? Or what do you think about um, mm, allopathy or Ayurveda? What is your opinion about these two things? I mean, ठीक है, at least if you are really suffering from something and you really need some guidance and the other person is capable of giving you that guidance, then it's very good. You know, you should definitely, you can take that guidance from that person. But otherwise, if you are general, you are just trying to while away time, if you have some time and you just want to break the ice and talk, and so we don't have to engage in these kind of talks with devotees. We can directly discuss some Krishna Katha. So these useless talks, they just start out with some very mm, what to say, like in a very harmless way, but gradually they develop into some kind of debates and then eventually end up in fault finding or blasphemy, like that. So therefore, one should not engage in useless talk, because they generally lay a very good platform for more detrimental forms of prajalpa actually. So he says, practicing devotees should discuss topics of Lord Hari in the association of other devotees, and remember Lord Hari's name, form, qualities, and pastimes in a secluded place without uselessly wasting time. And then he says, Aham sarvasya prabhavo mattas sarvam pravartate iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava samanvita. So he says that an intelligent person or a devotee is one who understands that aham sarvasya prabhava. He says that Krishna is the source of everything. Mattas sarvam pravartate. Everything emanates from him, or everything operates due to Krishna. And iti matva, one who understands this point, he is Buddha, he is intelligent. So what will that intelligent person do? He says, bhava samanvita mam bhajante. With great love, he will worship Krishna, right? And what is the meaning of bhava samanvita bhajan, worshipping Krishna with love? What is the meaning of that? He says, Machchitta madgata prana bodhayanta parasparam katayantascha mam nityam tushyanti cha ramanti cha. So he says that it means that Machchitta means with minds greedy for Krishna. So this generally means, as we saw last time, this means Anyabilashita Shunyam. Because Abhilasha is our goal. And generally our mind is greedy after the goal that we are trying to attain. Right? So Machchitta means they have accepted Krishna as their goal. That is the meaning of Machchitta. And Madgata Prana, being completely dependent on Krishna, means they are dependent only on the process of Navada Bhakti, and they are not having any dependence on Karma Jnana Yoga. So this means Jnana Karmadi Anavritam. So Machchitta Madgata Prana means Anyabilashita Shonyam Jnana Karmadi Anavritam. Okay. And Bodhayanta Parasparam Katayantascha indicates Anukulyena Krishna Anushīlanam. Right? Because Krishna Anushilanam means what? Engaging one's senses in Navada Bhakti. That is what is indicated by Bodhayanta Parasparam Katayantascha Mam Nityam. Okay. So mutually hearing about Krishna and singing about Krishna. Right? Nityam Tushyanti cha Ramanti cha. They continuously experience satisfaction and enjoyment. So this is the way in which Bhava Samanvita bhajan is performed by devotees, right? So, and also Krishna says, Satatam kirtayanto mam yatantascha dridavrata namasyantascha mam bhaktya nitya yukta upaste. So he says, Satatam kirtayanto mam. They continuously engage in worshipping Krishna. And we saw last time what is the meaning of continuous, right? So if you divide a devotee's time into a pie chart, if you put his time spent in a pie chart, a sadhaka spends some time engaging directly in pure devotional activities, and some time he is engaged in planning to enhance his practice of pure devotional service, and some of the time is engaged in firefighting, means dealing with those obstacles which may stop him from continuous engagement in Krishna conscious activities. So as and when one progresses in Krishna consciousness, 1 and 2 increases and 3 decreases, like that we saw. So in that way, actually our worship is satatam, but at least our endeavor should be to continuously engage either in activity 1 or activity 2, like that. So he says, in this way, the practicing devotee should cultivate unalloyed devotion. But if they spend their day and night engaged in useless talking, then how can they do satatam kirtayanto mam? How can they continuously engage in Krishna kirtan? So this is where we ended our discussion last week. This was a brief recap of what we saw last week. So if there are any quick comments, questions, discussions based on what we have discussed till now, I'll pause for a few minutes to see. You can raise your hands and we can have a small discussion. Anything? Anyone would like to share something, or you have any question based on what we have discussed till now about the fourth verse? Asadvarta Veshya Visrijamati Sarvaswaharani. How the useless talk is compared to a prostitute which will completely steal away one's intelligence to worship Krishna. Anything? Okay. So because there are no questions, so we will continue our discussion. So here Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur continues. He says, very interesting point, that in newspapers there is so much useless talk. Now, this is a very interesting point, he says, because during the time of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, there was hardly one popular newspaper, which was Amrita Bazar Patrika. So, the chief editor of that Amrita Bazar Patrika, Shishir Kumar Ghosh, was actually like a, in one sense, like a disciple of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. He was a great admirer of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and he was the one who actually gave the title of the seventh Goswami to Bhaktivinoda Thakur. So, which still we call Bhaktivinoda Thakur as the seventh Goswami. So it was Shishir Kumar Ghosh who gave that name, and he was the chief editor. And in that newspaper regularly, Shishir Kumar Ghosh used to publish the travel itinerary of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. He used to publish the transcripts of some of the talks given by Bhaktivinoda Thakur. He used to write reviews of the books published by Bhaktivinoda Thakur, right? So these kind of subject matters used to appear in Amrita Bazar Patrika. It was a public newspaper in which lot of details about Bhaktivinoda Thakur used to get published. So this was during that time when not much of really detrimental news was getting published in newspapers, actually, in those days. And there were hardly very few newspapers. In Calcutta, there was hardly, mostly it was Amrita Bazar Patrika only. So it was during those days when Bhaktivinoda Thakur is actually telling, then in newspapers there is so much useless talk. Huh? But actually in today's day and age, even if you see, um, uh, in those days, Amrita Bazar Patrika was actually better than even today's ISKCON news, you can say. Huh? So even in ISKCON news, if you say here and there is lot of unnecessary information, which is not really necessary for our development of Krishna consciousness, right? But Bhaktivinoda Thakur is telling, in newspapers there is so much useless talk. Then can you imagine today's day and age newspaper? Huh? And at least in few years, till few years back, if you are purchasing either Hindu or Indian Express or Times of India, whatever hard copy newspaper used to come, only that you had to read. But in today's day and age, you go to the internet and sitting at one place, you read all kinds of newspapers, everything you can read actually. And still, the interesting thing is that because we are not reading the hard copy newspaper, we still, after spending hours and hours of reading not so useful news, we somehow get the feeling that actually I am still not reading newspaper. Hmm. Even though we are spending much more time, we may be spending in reading all kinds of useless news, but we still get this feeling that, oh, Prabhupada has said no newspaper, I'm still not reading newspaper, because whatever I'm reading is from my smartphone only. We may feel like that, but actually we end up spending much more time reading all kinds of useless things actually. Huh? So here, um, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur further says, for the practicing devotee to read newspapers is a great loss. Hmm. I mean, we can think how far things have moved, and you know, uh, yeah. I mean, in today's newspaper, you can imagine what kind of news comes. It's definitely, even reading one of the news is very detrimental to our consciousness. But if there are topics about pure devotees described in the newspaper, then that can be read. So can you tell about any newspaper in which there is topics about pure devotees that is being discussed? After finishing their meal, mundane people normally smoke and engage in useless talks with other godless people. Huh? So it is certainly difficult for them to become followers of Srila Rupa Goswami. Hmm. Reading novels is the same. So he says that mm, to read novels, at least in those days, in the days of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, the novels at least were very decent, dharmic novels at least. But in today's day and age, what kind of novels come out actually? Huh? So, but Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, but if one gets a novel with a story like that of Puranjan in the Srimad Bhagavatam, then reading that is not an impediment, rather it is beneficial. Of course, Bhaktivinoda Thakur himself wrote two novels. Huh? One was the very famous Jaiva Dharma, in which, in the form of a novel, he has presented the whole Gaudiya Vaishnava philosophy in a beautiful way. And another novel that he wrote is a smaller novel by the name Prema Pradeepa. Hmm. So these are novels, and especially in that Prema Pradeepa novel, he he discusses contemporary, um, other new age philosophies that were there during that time. The Brahma Samaj and Arya Samaj, their philosophies. See, in the form of a novel, he created characters who were followers of that, and they would have conversations with the Vaishnavas, and how the Vaishnavas, present the right understanding of the Shastras and all that, like that he presented in his novel Prema Pradeepa. And and Jayavadharma also. Jayavadharma is much more comprehensive. It covers practically every single teaching of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the form of a beautiful storyline, right? So, um, so this is the first type, which was useless talk. So useless talk mostly, he says that reading general news. He says, why do you want to waste your time? Our time is very valuable. Use it in enhancing your Krishna consciousness. That is what he talks about, useless arguments. So the second type of Prajalpa that he is going to talk about is actually um, mm, arguments, how they take away. But before we move on to that, if there are any quick comments about uh, you know idle talking, if there are any, or useless talk. So useless talk was the first type of Prajalpa that we discussed. If there are any quick comments about useless talk, maybe we can take for a few minutes before we move on to the next theme of arguments. Any quick comments, questions? You can raise your hands. Okay. So we'll move on to the next point, which is argument. So he says, argument is a prajalpa that is adverse to devotional service. Okay. I think uh, Mataji has a question. I'll unmute you, Mataji. You can please ask.
Prabhuji,
Yes, Mataji.
sorry, I'm hearing in mobile, so I couldn't figure out where to raise hand. So it
Okay.
took time.
Yeah.
Actually, sometimes it's extremely difficult to get away with Prajalpa, useless talk.
Hmm.
Mm, Sometimes, like, if we have just gone for some half an hour for some either a meeting or a meeting in the relationships where you cannot escape, like now after being devotee for so many years you don't want to go to relatives house, but then sometimes you cannot avoid. So those sometimes also na, the way they talk
Mhm.
is very provoking and very I don't know, I want to bluntly put it as dirty.
Hmm.
मतलब हम लोग को आदत ही नहीं है वैसे, सुनने की भी आदत नहीं है, बोलने की भी आदत नहीं है, तो
Hmm.
उस सर्कमस्टेंसेस में ना बहुत अनकंफर्टेबल हो जाता है. आई
Hmm.
ट्राई टू सी टू इट दैट आई डोंट वांट टू हियर, बट फिर भी ना इट अफेक्ट्स द कॉन्शियसनेस.
Hmm.
मतलब इवन दैट मिनिमम, हाउ टू पुट इट, इवन दैट
Interact.
मिनिमम संग
Hmm.
you really don't want to go, but then it's such a close relationship that you have to, मतलब there's no
Yeah.
alternative, you can't go. वो तो मिनिमम में भी ना, I go in kitchen and I go in, I'll keep on working, but then वो फिर भी ना उस चीज को कैसे अवॉइड करने का, continuously like in the heart you are praying कि Krishna see to it that even though they are speaking it doesn't go in inside my ear, inside the heart you are praying and externally you are smiling, and मतलब इतना फिर भी बहुत डिफिकल्ट हो जाता है. तो ऑनेस्टली आस्किंग यू हाउ टू गेट ओवर इट.
You have already given a wonderful answer, Mataji. Internally you keep praying. I think that is the way. And and if I mean, and generally I try my best to, whenever I go to meet some of my old friends, or my relatives. I I never go to meet them when there is a group, because when there is a group there is lot of opportunity for them to speak amongst themselves, which might be lot of rubbish. So, and you feel really out of place, and they also feel embarrassed, because they have other kind of association. They want to freely uh, enjoy, and
Mm.
talk in that way, and
Yes.
they feel your presence is actually an obstacle,
Hindrance. Yes. Yes.
hindrance. But that's why whenever I go to meet any of my old friends,
Mm-hmm.
uh, I make sure that I meet them one on one.
Mm-hmm.
So when I meet them one on one, then they are very receptive to hear, or at the same time, or even if they may not be very receptive to hear, their talking actually is not that unfavorable. So,
Mm-hmm.
but when many other people are there where they can talk amongst themselves, then immediately we start feeling out of place, and they also start feeling little embarrassed. Uh, so, therefore, as far as possible, when I go to meet my relatives, I make it a point to meet them one on one. So that way they are more receptive when you are alone. So they want to hear, because they don't want to show amongst their peers that they have some interest in spirituality. So,
Mm-hmm.
but when you are alone and no one is there, then they open up, they hear from you. So sometimes when I visit other places where some of my friends have settled, so I make it a point, I visit them at their homes only,
Mm-hmm.
and I ensure. And when they call me, they said, "Hey, why don't we meet at a public place? I will call this friend, that friend, like that." I said, "No, I will
Mm-hmm.
meet them separately. I want to just spend personal time with you." So like that,
Mm-hmm.
I spend personal time with them, and that makes them very receptive. So that way, that is one thing I do. And other thing is on a very lower level, on a higher level, like what you did, uh, pray,
Mm-hmm.
pray to Krishna, and
Mm-hmm.
that way it is very, very
And even to be honest, any relatives house you go, like जाना ही पड़ता है, अल्टरनेटिव नहीं है उसको कोई। अब कितनी बार बहाना बनाने का ना कि आज इसके लिए नहीं आ रही है, आज उसके लिए नहीं, तो कभी कभी जाना पड़ता है। तो 24/7 टीवी इज ऑन, सो
hmm,
आपकी नजर में कुछ ना कुछ तो निकल ही जाता है। तो
hmm.
मतलब इतना।
Yeah, I understand, Mataji. At least in my case, um, actually, I make it a point to go and visit my relatives. I keep in touch with my relatives, because
अच्छा।
that is the only way they can also get an opportunity to gain some sukriti. So, so for me, I make it a point to go and meet them, uh, and yeah, sometimes the TV is on. Especially when you are staying with them for a day or so, they can't spend 24 hours with you. They have their regular, you know,
शेड्यूल।
8 o'clock shows or 9 o'clock shows that they have. They'll say that, we will just watch it and come, like that. But that's okay. You can go to your room and do your reading or chanting, whatever. But at other times, I make it a point to visit them, spend time with them, speak with them. So that way, they have an opportunity to. So rather than seeing them as someone who will drain your consciousness away, you can see them as those people who already have an affection for you.
राइट।
So therefore, there is a very good chance of them to accumulate more and more sukriti. So, so that way, when you are nice to them, when you talk nicely with them, they might think, "Hey, she is actually very different from all the other relatives. They are after, they are more interested. They are envious of my growth. They are seeing how much money I have, how much possessions I have. But she, like, genuinely interested in my welfare." Like that, if you can give an impact, um, then that appreciation will help them slowly open up to you, and then express their problems. They will seek some solutions, and you have an opportunity to maybe slowly introduce them to some minimal chanting, minimal eating of prasadam and things like that. So that
राइट।
way, gradually they can come to Krishna consciousness. So I make it a point to stay in touch with my relatives, but I just try to avoid going for public functions where, you know, where I become like the odd man out, like that.
So you have very big compassionate heart.
Not compassion, Mataji. This is just we all
Mm,
want to preach. This is
mm,
preaching to relatives is one easy way of preaching because they already have affection for
yes,
you.
they have a lot of affection for us. This I agree.
Yeah,
And different kind of affection. They know that we don't want to cheat. We don't want their money. We
yeah,
are that, so that is there. That's why we also sometimes do go, but becomes very draining, honestly.
yeah. That is true. That is true.
Thank you
Yeah,
for
thank you,
mm.
Mataji. Okay, so anything else? Madhavi Gopi Mataji, I'm unmuting you, Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah, Prabhuji, I just wanted to make a point that it is not always that when we are with the non-devotees, that time only we can do loose talks. Like
That
I
is a very good
feel
point you brought. Yeah,
because many, it is not the equation that when once we are with the devotees, that means we are doing some substantial talks about Krishna. Like
correct,
I see
correct.
many times among the devotees also, many times there is a that subtle kind of jealousy or
Hmm,
subtle kind of things come up, because somebody is doing, somebody has got some important seva,
hmm,
or somebody Krishna has bestowed somebody some talents,
hmm.
because of which the person is favorite of Guru Maharaj or somebody else, something like that.
Correct, correct,
So,
correct.
and then devotees discuss among themselves the like-minded things like
Hmm.
that. So,
Yeah,
my point is that such things or loose talks can go on even among devotees in temple. It's
yeah,
not
yeah.
that always
Correct, correct,
outside.
correct. And sometimes because you are discussing with devotees, many times we may be under the illusion that this is actually not Prajalpa. So, so yeah,
Yeah, I mean that way many actually many Vaishnava aparas also get means we do day in and day out, like
correct,
because some Vaishnava may not be up to the standards as per what is given in Shastras, and we may have some other fault which that Vaishnava may not have, but still, like at times we do take pleasure in discussing the faults of other Vaishnavas with
correct,
some
correct,
third persons, which is a loose talk in a sense.
correct.
Or
I mean, it is much more detrimental than loose talk. Yeah, so which we will be discussing in the subsequent discussions. But this is like, yeah, fault finding and is like much more detrimental than just mere loose talk like that.
yeah.
Yeah, thank you,
Okay.
Mataji.
Thank you.
Okay, so we will continue. The second type of prajalpa is actually argument. So Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, argument is a prajalpa that is adverse to devotional service. And you see what kind of arguments he is talking about. All the arguments of the followers of Nyaya and Vaisheshika are simply godless quarrels. I mean, can you believe that when he is talking about arguments, he is talking about arguments of the followers of Nyaya and Vaisheshika. I mean, how far we have drifted away. Hmm? If someone presents something from Nyaya or Vaisheshika theories, to our ears, it will sound actually like pure devotional service only. Huh? Um, but he is talking about the arguments of Nyaya and Vaisheshika as simply godless quarrels. And can you believe in today's day and age, what are the different kinds of arguments that we get into, which are like totally non-Vedic and non-Krishna conscious also. So he says they do not yield any result other than wasting the mind's strength and increasing one's restlessness. So the more we engage in some kind of arguments with people, it will make us more and more restless. So that is why even if you see when the Digvijay Pandit and you know when you know uh, many of the other such people, Roop Narayan and all, they all came for defeating Rupa Goswami, Sanatan Goswami. They simply took that Vijay Patra, signed their names and gave it because they had absolutely no time For them, time was extremely valuable. They didn't want to waste it in useless argument. So they immediately signed the Vijay Patra and gave it, and he said, you are the winner, just leave us alone, like that. So, so not only is the time spent in arguing that is wasted, but post that argument, it makes our mind very restless, and it makes our mind very weak. So that way, argument is like very unfavorable. It increases the restlessness and it decreases the strength of the mind. In the Vedas, it is said, Naisha Tarkena Matir Apaneya. This intelligence cannot be attained by argument or various kinds of material logic and arguments. One cannot actually understand Krishna. The living entity's proper discretion is eternally established in his natural intelligence. That discretion naturally flows towards the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. Nimnam apa iva swayam. Just like water naturally flows from a higher position to a lower position, similarly, a living entity's natural intelligence naturally flows towards the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. But but if one engages in useless arguments with people, then that natural course of the intelligence that is actually distracted. But by arguing about directions, places, mistakes, and illusions, the heart becomes tough. The very important point. So arguments leads to hard-heartedness, right? So this is very much unfavorable for progress in bhakti, because by practice of bhakti we are trying to make the heart very soft, and these various kinds of arguments and wanting to establish our own opinions by arguing and defeating people, this actually makes the heart very hard. And if we have the intent of arguing with people, another problem is that our heart becomes hard. The second problem is that we become attached to winning rather than learning. So we become more attached to winning the argument rather than learning. So in that way, even though we may know for sure that we don't know the answer, but we will try to tell some answer to bluff that person. So in that way, we will never learn the right things actually. So therefore, we should at all we can definitely have good discussions, Krishna conscious discussions with people, which can lead to nice churning. So that way we can learn. But if we become attached to arguing, then we will become attached to winning the argument rather than actually learning what is the right understanding actually. So then if we keep arguing, then natural discretion no longer remains. By accepting the Vedic Dashamula instructions and arguing accordingly, one's mind does not become wicked. So he says there are Dashamula Tattva, 10 essential conclusions of the Shastras. Okay, so these are called the Vedic Dashamula. So he says that you can discuss about these Dashamula Tattva and you can have various churning and discussions on this point, and this will not make the heart hard. So what are the 10 essential conclusions of the Shastras? So I will just add one slide. Just hold on for a second. So just hold on for a second. So the Dashamula Tattva. So what are the Dashamula? The first of the Dashamula Tattva is the Vedic scriptures are the proper or highest pramana. They are the highest source of knowledge. The Vedic scriptures are the highest source of knowledge. This is the first. And what do the Vedic scriptures say? That's what the next. So, what do the Vedic scriptures say? Right. So they have, they say Sambandha, Abhideya and Prayojan. Okay. So he says the second principle is Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead and he is the absolute truth. So this is the first conclusion of the Shastras. The second conclusion of the Shastras is that he is Sarva Shaktiman. He is all powerful. And then the next is that he is not just Sarva Shaktiman, but he is Akhila Rasamrita Murti. He is the personification of all loving mellows. Like that. Then, so these three are about Krishna. Okay. 2, 3, 4. They are about Krishna. Then the fifth is that Krishna's Tatastha energy are the living entities. Okay. So the introduction to Tatastha Shakti. Then the sixth is that some of them have eternally turned their face away from Krishna. They stay in the material world. And they are called as Nitya Baddhas. Okay. So this is the sixth principle. And the seventh principle is some of them have always been favorably inclined to serving him. So they are Nitya Siddhas. And they stay in the spiritual world. Right? So 2, 3, 4 are about Krishna, 5, 6, 7 are about Jivas. And the 8th is about Achintya Beda Beda Tattva. What is this Achintya Beda Beda? how Krishna and his energies are simultaneously one and different. Simultaneous, oneness, and difference between Krishna and his energies. Right? So this is the 8th point. And the 9th point is that so this is 2 to 8 is sambandha. 9th is abhideya, practice. The abhideya is sadhana bhakti. And then the 10th is prayojan is prema. Right? So these are the Dashamula Tattva. So of which the first principle is the Vedic scriptures are the proper and highest pramana. Then the next 3 principles, next 7 principles talk about Sambandha Gyan. The 9th principle talks about Abhideya, and the 10th principle talks about Prayojan. So second principle is Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and he is Sarva Shaktiman, he is Akhila Rasamrita Murti. Then Krishna's Tatastha energy are the living entities. Some of them have eternally turned their face away from Krishna and they stay in the material world. They are the Nitya Buddhas. And some of them have always been favorably inclined to serving him. They are the Nitya Siddhas and they stay in the spiritual world. And there is an Achinta Beda Bed, inconceivable, simultaneous oneness and difference relationship between Krishna and his energies. And so these are all Sambandha Gyan. And then the Abhideya that is recommended in the Shastras is Sadhana Bhakti, and the Prayojan is Prema. So like that, these are the 10 essential. If you have to summarize the teachings of the Vedic scriptures in 10 points, these are the 10 conclusions. So Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur says that you can actually discuss about these Dashamula Tattva, and by discussing the conclusions of this Dashamula, Vedic Dashamula, actually he says that one's mind does not become wicked. Otherwise, the mind becomes very hard-hearted. One becomes very hard-hearted by arguments like that. Right? So this is Dashamula Tattva that we discussed. So he says, what is good, what is bad? When such deliberations are based on the Vedas, that is no longer Prajalpa. Whether this is right or wrong, whether it is when it is according to the Vedic conclusions, then that is not Prajalpa, he says. Right? Then he says, that is why in the Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Leela, Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has given the instruction, Atayeva Bhagavata Karaha Vichar. So he says, therefore study Srimad Bhagavatam very scrutinizingly. So even though here he talks about Vedas, but for us Vedic scriptures means Atayeva Bhagavata Karaha Vichar. Therefore we have to study Srimad Bhagavatam scrutinizingly, and based on the conclusions of Srimad Bhagavatam, we can have lot of discussions. Right? We can have lot of discussions. That is perfectly fine. And that is very, very nourishing, and that is not an unfavorable argument. Those are not unfavorable arguments, and those are not unfavorable for bhakti. So in fact, that is how one should study Bhagavatam. We should come together with devotees and read some sections from Bhagavatam, and everyone can share their reflections, and each one may have a different reflection to share, and one can try to understand, oh, I never thought about this point of view I never thought that this verse could be understood in this way also. So that way, as Prabhupada says in one of his purports, that you know, the scriptures should be studied. They have many different points of views, and my sincere students should scrutinizingly study my scriptures and discuss from various points of views, like that. So Ataeva Bhagavata Karaha Vichar. Discussions to establish the knowledge of one's relationship with the Lord are not prajalpa. So he says, what kinds of discussions are not unfavorable prajalpa? So if we are having discussions which help us establish the knowledge of our relationship with Krishna, then that is not prajalpa. But those who conquer the assembly by useless arguments do not reach any conclusion. Therefore, it is certainly one's duty to give up such logicians' association. If someone is very much inclined to argue and defeat others, we should keep a safe distance from such people, because we don't have because they don't have the right attitude of learning and coming closer to Krishna. They may have an attitude of only winning other people by their argument, and in their association we may also get influenced and we may try to defeat them by our arguments. So therefore he says that arguments are not at all good, especially because they actually they waste one's mind's strength, and they increase one's restlessness, right? So this is one. Mind's strength is wasted, and the second point is that restlessness increases, like that. Okay, so there is a point that is asked, what about arguments in management meetings? Yeah, I mean, again the point is, in management meetings also, many times we may get into arguments which may come on the level of false ego only. Many times it may not really matter whether that person's point of view is established or our points of view is established, but many times we want to ensure that you know, our point of view is established, because we want to show that who is the boss here. You know, if it goes in that direction, then it is unfavorable. But if we have a genuine compassion and genuine reason where we are totally convinced that this will be of greater service to the devotees, then we can always present our points. And even in such situations we have to see, many times mm, if without resorting to arguments, if we can one-on-one also discuss with that person and convince him in a very nice way, that would always be better. But many times the whole atmosphere of the management meeting itself is very agitating, and we may also get carried away by that mood of that meeting and act in such ways. But many times, you know, it is easy to convince that person. You know, if you have a nice personal relationship, you can nicely explain to him, and maybe in doing that we may even understand that person's point of view better. So yeah, so another question is, even while preaching we get into arguments. Yeah, ideally while preaching we should try to avoid that mood, that of trying to establish ourselves to be the top. But of course, if the other person is very much intended on arguing, and if it's a public argument, and if you don't answer that question properly, if other people's faith can get affected, then to protect their faith in a non-confrontational way, we can answer their questions. But our mood should not be to let me show who knows better. That kind of mood should not be there, because even though we may win the argument, but we might lose uh, the hearts of the people. People may become antagonistic. Array, he is dressed like a sadhu, but he see how much he is getting agitated like that. So as far as possible, we should try to avoid such kind of situation. Actually, in preachings, we can win people's heart by being very nice, considerate, and pleasant, rather than argumentative. And sometimes if we win their hearts that way, even without argument, without arguing, they will accept our point of view like that. Okay. So further, okay, there is some other point. Sometimes arguments based on Shastras also become ego based and become heated. Though we try to see through examples of Acharyas like Srila Prabhupada, still there are difference of opinions. How are these to be seen? Yeah, so sometimes we do see difference of opinions of different Acharyas also. Yeah, I mean, that is definitely possible. And if you see, even Acharyas present different points of view, but they never try to take sides actually. So even in Vishnu Chakradhakur's commentaries, you see that he says that this is one understanding, and this is another understanding. Other learned people try to present this opinion, and never once I have seen him take sides. He says that of these two, I think this is right. Like that, he never says. So, and somewhere Baldev Vidyabhushan mentions that two acharyas may present exactly opposite points of view, which may even mean that you have to practice point of view A or point of view B. It may have direct relevance to your own practice of bhakti also. Either you practice based on this opinion or that opinion. He says, no problem, accept one and follow it fully. That's what Baldev Vidyabhushan says. So even if acharyas seem to present different points of view, you accept one of the points of view and follow it fully, rather than keep arguing. And definitely, yes, it is quite possible that our arguments can also become ego based. But if we learn the art of hearing that other person out nicely, then by doing that, what happens? One thing from our side, we try to understand his point of view better, and from that other person's side, it melts his ego, because we have heard him out completely. So when his ego melts, then it's easier for our ego also to melt, because so then it becomes very easy. So many times when we try to understand that other person's point of view, that makes it much more easier for the other person to understand our point of view. Then that way, we can come to reasonable understanding. So yeah, that's what I feel. Okay, so that's about arguments, and most of the questions came through the chat box. So if we, yeah, I think we have one or two more slides about arguments. So he says, he gives the example of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya in Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Leela. He says, Tarkika Shrigala Sange Bheu Bheu Kari Sei Muke Ebe Sada Kahi Krishna Hari. So he says, in the association of the jackals known as logicians, I simply continued to bark a resounding bhev, bhev. Now from the same mouth, I am chanting the holy names Krishna and Hari. He says that when my association changed, when I was in the association of the logicians who were like compared to jackals, I was simply barking with them continuously, mm, making the sound bhew bhew. But now that I have received the association of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and through Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the association of wonderful Vaishnavas, now with the same mouth, I am seeing that I am chanting the holy names of Krishna and Hari, like that. So ultimately, the association is very important. Those who are accustomed to discuss spiritual matters should remember the words of Varanasi Sannyasi, as found in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. परमार्थ विचार गेला करी मात्रवाद, कहाँ मुक्ति पाबा कहाँ कृष्णेरा प्रसाद. The atheists headed by the Mayavadi philosophers do not care for liberation or Krishna's mercy. They simply continue to put forward false arguments and counter theories to atheistic philosophy, not considering or engaging in spiritual matters. So, therefore, such kinds of arguments are not very favorable. Actually, we should not be very much interested in those kind of arguments. So he says, useless arguments arise from envy or pride, aversion or attachment to sense gratification, or foolishness or self pride. So, what is the cause of arguments? Cause of argumentative mentality. So, what are the causes of argumentative mentality? He says, first is envy, second is pride, third is aversion to sense gratification, because we are afraid. More than aversion, it is we are afraid of sense gratification. So when we see other people engage in sense gratification, our own insecurity to handle that sense gratification comes out in the form of an argumentative mentality. And fourth is attachment to sense gratification. So here the argument comes in the form of justification. I need it. It is not sense gratification for me. It's a genuine need for me, like that. Or sometimes arguments can, can be born out of foolishness, and sometimes out of self pride. We just want to show that we are very, very well accomplished. So if someone presents an argument which is antithetical to our conclusions, then just to establish our pride, protect our self pride, we end up involving in arguments like that. So he says that if we are arguing with someone, try to identify, there could be one of the reasons. It could be envy, pride, aversion to sense gratification, attachment to sense gratification, foolishness, or self pride. So identify this mentality. One of these mentalities would be the cause of our arguments. So therefore, immediately we should stop that argument, because it only enhance our envy or pride or aversion to sense gratification, attachment to sense gratification, foolishness, or self pride. And then he says, quarrelsome people become intoxicated by useless arguments. So people who like to quarrel, they become intoxicated by useless arguments. While discussing topics of the Lord and his devotees, the practicing devotee should always be careful to avoid useless arguments. Okay. So this does not mean, but devotees should indulge in useful churning of Krishna conscious topics. That is very, very important. So they should come and discuss and you know, uh, higher and higher levels like Shravanam should lead to Mananam, should lead to Nididhyasanam. And these happen very powerfully in the association of devotees. Okay. Hearing alone and hearing in association, actually hearing in association is very, very powerful. Okay. And Mananam means reflection, deeply thinking about the subject matter. Okay. So reflection also happens very powerfully in association. Right? Because you hear various different points of view, and which may challenge your own understanding of so your subject matter, your understanding of subject matter gets very powerfully refined in the association of like-minded affectionate devotees, right? Then Nididhyasanam means actually realization and application. So Nididhyasanam is also called as Acharanam. Acharanam means practical behavior. So when what you speak and what you think, if you are able to seamlessly practice it, then that is realization, that is application. That is called as Acharanam. And Acharanam is also called as Nididhyasanam. So these things, different levels of actually understanding and application, starting from Shravanam, Mananam and Nididhyasanam, actually they can happen powerfully in the association of devotees. So therefore we should always be very, very eager to come together with devotees and discuss Krishna Katha rather than personally read. Okay. And if we have some nice discussions and churnings, that is definitely not prajalpa and argument. Actually, that is actually very favorable for one's Krishna consciousness. So this is about the second type of prajalpa, which is actually arguments. And we started by discussing that the arguments are they actually end up wasting one's mind strength, and it increases one's restlessness. And he says the natural nature of intelligence is to flow towards the lotus feet of Krishna. That natural nature of that intelligence to flow towards lotus feet of Krishna is obstructed by argument, because practice of devotional service melts the heart, and practice and engaging in argumentative discussions actually hardens the heart, and therefore our heart does not naturally flow towards Krishna's lotus feet. But he says, if at all you want to have a nice discussion, stimulating discussion, then you had discussed about the Vedic Dashamola Tattvas. So Dashamola Tattva, we discussed these 10 aspects, which are the conclusions of the Shastras. You can discuss on that. And therefore, he said that any deliberations based on the Vedas is no longer Prajalpa. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said for devotees, especially Gaudiya Vaishnavas, the deliberations based on the Vedas means Atayeva Bhagavata Karaha Vichar, studying Srimad Bhagavatam scrutinizingly and studying and discussing the conclusions of Srimad Bhagavatam. Okay. And then he says discussions based on discussions to establish the knowledge of one's relationship with Krishna are not Prajalpa. But if we try to conquer the assembly by useless arguments, then we will not reach any conclusion. And he gave the example of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, and where the importance of association. If we have the wrong association, then it definitely increases the argumentative mentality. And if we have the right association, then we won't have that argumentative mentality. And he says, generally, argumentative mentality arises either out of envy or pride or aversion to sense gratification or attachment to sense gratification or foolishness or self-pride. So we should always introspect and ask ourselves, what is it that is causing this kind of unfavorable argumentative mentality? And then he says, but devotees should, while they should be careful to avoid useless arguments, but they should indulge in useful churning of Krishna conscious topics. Only then, and especially in the association of devotees, Shravanam, Mananam, and Nididhyasanam can happen very, very powerfully, very fast, and in a very powerful way, actually. If any one of you had the opportunity to read Yamuna Mataji's biography, um, Yamuna Mataji's biography, if you actually discuss, if you see, they had a very unique way of conducting Bhagavatam class. So in their Radha Banvihari ashram, it was their house essentially. They used to have everyday morning Bhagavatam, not class but discussion. So they used to read Prabhupada's purports, Prabhupada's translation, and each one used to share their reflections, and wonderful churning used to happen actually. And many senior Prabhupada disciples, they have visited their house and participated in these kinds of discussions, and they said that we have never felt so nourished attending a Bhagavatam class like that. So therefore this is very, very important. There is one question that has been asked through the chat box, where it is mentioned, even on the Dashamula Tattva, there is argument and other issues like Varnashrama, Jiva, the Jiva fall down issue, woman guru issue, and all those things. Of course, we can discuss, provided there is proper substantiation from the Shastras. So we will see that different people who are presenting different points of view, they may present actually some substantiation which we may not have seen. So we have a good opportunity to see, oh, then how do I understand this particular point, right? So it gives us an opportunity to understand their point of view also. So if you think there is a particular, all the proofs point towards your understanding, if opposing proofs are presented, then you should be, it helps you, it gives you an opportunity to think more deeply, and because you should be able to explain. So either it will change your understanding, or it will allow you to go a little more deeper and try to reevaluate your own understanding. It may fine tune your understanding, it may change your understanding, it may help you to go deeper and come up with deeper explanations which will be able to account for those opposing arguments. So this is very good. We should not shy away from when we are discussing the Vedic Dharma, we should not shy away from various kinds of we can't say arguments, but opposing points of views, because it will help us actually fine tune our own understanding and go a little more deeper. So we should do it in the mentality of not arguing and establishing our point of view to be right, but we should engage in these kinds of discussions in a mood to genuinely understand, is my understanding correct, is it complete, is it deep enough? With that, with those motivations, we can definitely approach these topics. We need not shy away, right? Like that. There is another question. What is the difference between pride and self-pride? I don't know, maybe they're same only. I don't know if there is any difference between pride and self-pride. Yeah, another question. I mean, somehow devotees are inspired to ask the questions through the chat box. So one question is, can you explain how it happens due to foolishness? Uh, so yeah, foolishness means we have a very uh, small, improper, incomplete, non-holistic understanding of a particular subject matter, but we are very much attached to that understanding, and we may be engaged in severe argumentation due to that incomplete understanding. Maybe we do have some quotes from Srila Prabhupada also, which are taken out of context to come to such a conclusion. But even though we have not sufficiently meditated upon and reflected upon the subject matter, we have a very half-baked understanding. But we may become very much attached to that half-baked non-holistic understanding of that subject matter, and which may lead to an argumentative mentality. So that way even foolishness can cause argumentation like that. Okay, any other quick comments, questions about arguments before we move on to the next type of prajalpa, which is gossiping? Venkat Govind Prabhu, I am unmuting you, Prabhuji.
Krishna Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu.
Prabhu, while describing the various causes for argumentative mentality, you said either it is attachment to sense gratification or aversion to sense gratification.
Yeah.
Attachment to sense gratification we can understand, but what is this aversion to sense gratification?
Aversion to sense gratification is actually we are attached only, but we know that it is wrong to indulge in sense gratification. So we have a strong sense of insecurity when when an opportunity for sense gratification is there. So that insecurity comes in the form of arguing against sense gratification. We are so severely against those people who indulge in sense gratification because we ourselves are very insecure that, oh, I may anytime fall prey to sense gratification. So that insecurity comes in the form of argumentative mentality.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so there is another question. Should we argue to defend a devotee to prove he is not wrong? Yeah, definitely. We are uh, that kind of arguments is very, very good to prove someone else is not wrong, some other devotee is not wrong. Yeah, that is very good. As per Gita, Lord Krishna says in logic and argument, I am Vada, I am not Jalpa or Vitanda. So we should not be afraid of opposite view, rather be open-minded and broad-minded. Yeah, that is very good point. So yeah, we should be open-minded. Like I was hearing one of the presentations by His Grace Radhika Raman Prabhu, and he was making this point, very beautiful point, that in trying to understand scriptures, or even in trying to deeply delve into the scriptures, he says there are two qualities which are very important, right? So he says two qualities which are very important. Two qualities for discussing Shastras or understanding Shastras. He says first is humility, okay, and the second is, he says, open-mindedness. He says we should be open rather than being attached to our understanding. We should be open. If we are open-minded or broad-minded, then we may some of the then there is a good chance that our understanding may get very nicely fine tuned. But if we are very closed, if we come with the mood of, I have to somehow or other defend my opinion and somehow prove the other person's opinion to be wrong, then that is very sad actually. Then that kind of that disqualifies a person from actually interpreting shastras or trying to understand shastras. So a solid humility that I may not know everything, and an open-mindedness is very much critical for actually trying to understand shastras and go deep into our understanding of shastras like that. Yeah, that's right. Thank you. Okay, so that's about arguments, which is the second type of prajalpa that he discusses, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. The third type of argument, so the third type of prajalpa is actually gossiping. Okay, so what is gossip? He says talking without reason about other people is extremely adverse to devotional service. So this is called as gossiping. No specific reason. Talking about that person has nothing to do with your own spiritual life. It has nothing to do with your services or your sadhana, nothing. But for no reason, we talk about other people. This is very adverse to our devotional life, he says. Many people talk about others to establish their own reputation. Actually, this is the main reason we talk about other people. When we talk about others, we want to mainly establish our own reputation. That is the main reason we talk about others. This is very bad. Being envious. Some people are accustomed to discuss others' character. This is actually very detrimental, and we should actually be ruthlessly honest and accept that actually I am envious. That is why I am inclined to discuss about these other people. So that is the main reason, and it is okay if we are envious, but at least we should understand and admit that that is what is pushing me in that direction, and at least try to we are seeing envy, but we don't have to allow that envy to manifest in a blatant way in the form of gossiping. So when that inclination comes, identify that, should I respond to this pushing of this envy and indulge in gossiping about others? So let me not indulge. So we have to look internally. When this desire to gossip or speak about others come, then we should understand that it is just a manifestation of my envy. Should I indulge in this gossip and then add fuel to the flame of envy, or should I just tolerate it and act in a way that would be more pleasing to Guru and Krishna, like that? The minds of those who are busy in such topics can never be fixed on the lotus feet of Krishna. Actually, we can ask ourselves, whenever we discuss about others, how easy it is for us to meditate on the lotus feet of Krishna. Actually, even otherwise, when we are not busy discussing about others also, at least for me, I can talk about myself, it is not very easy to be fixed on the lotus feet of Krishna. Then certainly I can tell for sure, when I am discussing about others out of envy, then it becomes very, very difficult to actually think about lotus feet of Krishna. So there is a question in this regard. In management, there will be discussions about devotees' faults. Yeah, it may be there, but we have to see that drishtair swabhavajanitair vapushascha doshair na prakritatvam iha bhakta janasya pashyet. We may see that the person has some faults, which may disqualify him from performing particular kinds of services. But we should understand that uh, that does not disqualify him from performing devotional service itself. So yes, as a manager, I have to I see that he has certain uh, mm, certain problems which may not allow him to properly perform particular services. Then but I should learn to separate his nature from that person himself. uh, so his swabhava from his shraddha. I should learn to separate his shraddha from his swabhava. So when I do that, I see that, oh, just like I have some unwanted baggage, he also has some unwanted baggage. But just like I want people to uh, judge me not based on my anarthas, but based on my conviction to serve Krishna, similarly, why should I judge that person based on his anartha? Rather, I would choose to judge him on the basis of his conviction to serve Krishna. So in that way, from a management point of view, that particular, I may see that conditioning as being unfavorable to perform particular services. But from a personal point of view, I should see that I should learn to see beyond his conditioning. There is a personality who has a desire to serve Krishna sincerely, who is hiding behind this thick layer of conditioning. So like that, I should see, I should learn to see. That is the right thing, even though it is not very easy to do that. But nevertheless, we should try to recondition ourselves in this way. Even though we are also conditioned to see other people's conditioning only, but we have to strictly try to recondition ourselves, so that we don't try to see other people's, we learn to see beyond their conditioning. There is a person who wants to become a very sincere lover of Krishna, who is hiding behind this thick layer of conditioning. This conditioning layer is different from that personality. That is true. And just like we don't want to be judged for our own conditioning, we should not judge others for their conditioning also. But at the same time, on a management level, we do understand that with this conditioning, it may not be very favorable for him to perform those particular services. So we may offer alternative services to that person, like that. There is another question. Uh, uh, Sometimes we are severely hurt by someone, which leads us to talk about that person again and again, probably for our own ventilation. Does this come in the preview of gossip? Yeah, it depends on how we speak. Actually, if we are deeply hurt by a person, then certainly we should not seek out the natural tendency is to look out for other people who have also been similarly hurt by that person, so that we both can come together and criticize that person. That is natural tendency. And just like water naturally flows from top position to lower position, our mind also naturally seeks the association of such people only. Mm. but 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 if we if we try to avoid doing that, rather try to search out for a person who is more advanced than us, who is like-minded, and who has not been affected in this way, and who is a genuine well-wisher, who has great affection for our progress, and who is a genuine well-wisher. If we approach such people, that is the greatest benediction that anyone can have in one's life, is like-minded, affectionate, um, mm, more advanced devotees association. So who are genuine well-wishers. So under such conditions, if we approach them, then I think it is very good. It will definitely, we can be assured that our need for ventilation will also be fulfilled, and at the same time we will not end up doing useless gossip like that. Because that person, because he is more advanced, he knows, he will try to tackle the situation in such a way that we don't indulge in gossip. but at the same time, because he is affectionate to us, he will also understand the need for us to vent out our deep uh, you know troubles. So so that way we feel nicely flushed out also, and at the same time uh, we don't indulge in gossiping. Okay, there is one more question. I don't know, somehow someone started and everyone wants to ask questions over chat box only. Fine, I am okay. If you want to, so that need not discourage others from vocally asking their questions or sharing their comments, even though some devotees might want to share it over the chat box. So that is the question is, in the banking scenario where I am working, some customers keep on arguing for what they think is right, but not as per our bank's guidelines. I ended up having one such argument last week. How should I have stopped myself? Yeah, I mean, what to do? I mean, uh, you can very nicely, at least as far as possible, if you can, in a very non-confrontational way, uh, if you can show the guidelines and guidebook, and in a nice non-confrontational way, if you can approach, uh, maybe it will be very useful for them also. And mm, because naturally, uh, because it's the scenario of bank, people are very much concerned about losing their money. So if they have not read a fine print properly, and they definitely will have a feeling of, we have been cheated or something like that. So maybe from your side you can go a little bit out of the way and tell them that, Prabhuji, next time when you look at this, please read these things very nicely, and give them some nice useful tips. You can go a little bit out of the way to give them some nice useful tips, by which uh, they may end up feeling little grateful also, and they may give up that argumenting, like that. So another question here from the chat box: there are certain things which material people also won't do, but due to conditioning, if such thing is done by the devotee, how to accept? Yeah, you rightly mentioned, due to conditioning. uh, mm, yeah, what to do? uh, you know we come up we all come to Krishna consciousness with various kinds of conditioning, and many times uh, they raise their nasty hoods. But the point is, as Prabhupada said, that when you want to look at devotees, he says that when you switch off the fan will not stop immediately. It's mm, uh, momentum will allow it to keep rotating for some more time before it eventually stops completely. So similarly, we understand that, yes, this person is acting in an abominable way due to conditioning, but I see that he has sincere desire to worship Krishna, and the bhakti is very powerful, and it is just a question of time before he will overcome his conditioning. Just like bhakti is powerful, by which I will also overcome my conditioning. In the same way, he will also overcome his conditioning. So that way we have to see, because that is not a mental adjustment, it is reality actually. So why can't in fact we have to see uh, that actually bhakti is so wonderful and powerful, that even people with such powerfully strong conditionings can also develop a desire to serve Krishna. So we see the benevolent nature of bhakti, that bhakti can be practiced by even the most severely conditioned people. There is no uh, mm, there is no material disqualification for practicing bhakti. Kirata hunandra pulinda pulkasha abira shumba yavanaha kasadaya yenye cha papa yadapa shraya shraya shuddyanti tasmai prabha vishnave namaha. So we see that yes, bhakti is so merciful that no amount of severe conditioning is a stumbling block to take up to the practice of bhakti. Rather, by practicing bhakti, any amount of conditioning can slowly but steadily and surely be completely wiped out. So in that mode, we have to see. That is ideal. So then that way, when we fall prey to our own conditionings, we can expect others to see in the same way. Like that. Okay. So we are talking about gossiping, which is talking uselessly and unnecessarily talking about others. So Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur continues. So he says, talking about others should be rejected in all respects. He says, but in the practice of devotional service, there are many favorable topics that are faultless, even though they are about others. Within devotional service, we can talk about others which are not faultless. Like what? He will tell little later. He says, in order to completely renounce talking about others, one needs to live in the forest. We cannot completely stop talking about others under all respects. That is not possible. The two different types of practicing devotees are the householders and the renunciates, right? So the usage of these terminologies by Bhaktivinoda Thakur, we should understand the context of the use of these terminologies. During Bhaktivinoda Thakur's time, actually, there were only two ashramas, you can say. One is the Grihastha and Grihatyagi. Okay. So Grihastha does not just mean household. That's a very literal translation of this word. But here Grihastha means actually a sadhaka. He could be a brahmachari or a grihastha or a vanaprastha, etc. But a grihatyagi is a babaji. He is a siddha, perfected devotee who is at the stage of bhava or prema. Okay, and he is a babaji. So this is the context in which Bhaktivinoda Thakur uses the terminologies householder and renunciates, right? Here householder means anyone who is still performing sadhana bhakti, he is a householder, which means he is not fit to take up the Babaji renunciation. But because when you have only two positions like this, sadhaka and siddha, and if the siddha gets lot of respect, because they do deserve that respect, when they get that pujala pratishtha, naturally unqualified people from here would want to migrate here without actually gaining qualification. So this led to a lot of apasampradayas, right? Then as a result of this, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur introduced, no, we will make this 1 into 4. He said, brahmachari, then grihastha, vanaprastha, and sannyas. Hare Krishna. Sorry, just momentarily I lost. I think I'll have to ask. So we were discussing about Grihastha and Grihatyagi. And because there were only these two, many people were trying to move from being a Grihastha to a Grihatyagi prematurely, and therefore many apasampradayas came. And therefore Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur divided this 1 into 4, brahmachari grahastha 1. So at least there is a gradual sense of moving from progress before we directly jump into the stage of Babaji, like that. Because the renunciants have no business whatsoever with sense enjoyment, they can give up talking about others in all respects. So if you are a Babaji in the truest sense of that word, if you have reached the stage of bhava or prema, then you can actually avoid prajalpa. You can avoid talking about others. But because a householder is engaged in earning, saving, protecting and maintaining the family, he cannot completely stop talking about others. It is best for him to live in a karma conscious family, right? Okay, we have lot more to discuss about this kind of prajalpa, which is gossiping. I think we will pause here for today and take this discussion forward next Tuesday. But we still have 1 or 2 minutes. If there are any quick comments, questions before we wind up for the day, maybe we can take anything before we wind up for the day. Okay, so there are no further comments, questions, discussions. So we'll end our discussion here. All very much for your patient listening, and we'll continue this discussion next Tuesday. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Raghunath Das Goswami Pad ki jai. Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur ki jai. Shri Manas Siksha ki jai. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much.